Welcome to Travel Talk, the show where I interview people whose careers are focused on travel or have been inspired by travel. And what better way to get to know someone than to have a drink with them. I'm your host, David Hoffman from Davidsbeenhere, and today we're talking travel with Mike Dewey, filmmaker, and we're drinking some local IPAs from right here in downtown Hollywood. So, Mike,
Cheers, man.
Cheers. Mike, tell me about how you got into filmmaking.
I got into filmmaking, I think when I was around 20 years old. I took a trip. It was my first European backpacking trip that everyone does when they're in college or whatever. And I took this backpacking trip with my friend, and he brought a camera along with him. And he was like, let's just shoot random clips as we were traveling throughout Europe. And I was like, awesome, let's do it. So while we were there, I was like 19, 20 years old, and we just started shooting stuff. And for fun, when I got back home, I was like, I'm gonna edit this together, and just so my family and friends can see the spots I've been to. And I put together like a 10-part series that's super embarrassing that I would never show anyone right now because it's so painful to watch. But I put together like this little 10-part series of all the places I traveled to in Europe. And then it was kind of cool. The next year I was like, I want to go back and start showcasing travel content for promote travel to like a younger generation, because everything I had seen was like Rick Steves and all those guys, Samantha Brown, and I was like, where are all the young people that are traveling? And where's I want to see on the Travel Channel a backpacking video of backpackers through Europe kind of thing. And
they still don't have it.
They still don't have that. So I put together this pitch deck, and I reached out to these brands, and I was like, I'm gonna do this thing that I've always wanted to do. And I went back the next year, and I actually put together a series and had a few sponsors and stuff, and it was pretty rad. I had free flights, some free luggage and stuff like that. I mean, just free products and stuff like that, and it was awesome. However, after that, after doing that trip, I went on that trip and I put together some videos that were also terrible because I had no idea what I was doing. But it was just a learning process. But after that, for about 7 years, I'd say, my film career kind of was dormant, and I pursued this graphic design career, which I feel like I did really well on. I had a really successful iPhone app. I worked at a really cool startup company, and I kind of forgot about traveling and filmmaking. Well, not traveling, I'd go here and there, but the filmmaking stuff I forgot about. I started a YouTube channel 3 or 4 years ago, and I was just I'm just gonna start putting together videos again and kind of reignite that passion. So that's kind of where it started from, and it's kind of just evolved to what it is now over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, most of your story there, I can relate to that. Most travel people, personalities, started like that.
For sure.
So yeah, I mean, we all start somewhere.
Everyone has that same kind of story where they're
my first 1,000 videos, I never want to see them again. It's oh my god. But yeah, you start, man. It's a learning process.
Yeah. Oh man, some of my first stuff is I made sure on YouTube that I went and found it all and deleted it or made it private, because I was I'll bring it back out at some point. Maybe in 5 years I'll bring it back and do a vintage series or something. I don't know. It's pretty bad though.
So what is it that you want your viewers to learn through your videos?
At the end of the day, I want to encourage people to travel for themselves. I think that's what a lot of the other people that are in the travel industry want to do, inspire people to travel. But I think for me, the times in the last few years that traveling I've gotten out of my comfort zone are the times that I feel like I've learned the most and been the most stoked about traveling. And so I guess for me, it's I like the idea of encouraging people to get outside of their comfort zone to go to places that they probably wouldn't have gone to before.
So what is the most photogenic destination that you visited?
I think for me, I went to Indonesia for the first time last year. Have you been there?
That's how I learned about it.
Yeah. Dude, Indonesia is have you been there?
No, I'm going September.
Dude, that place is mind-boggling. I've been to some other cool places throughout Europe and stuff, but I really like Switzerland and Swiss Alps are gorgeous. Alaska and the States is cool, but Indonesia just blew my mind. There's so much diversity there. You can get into these tribes on small. There's 17,000 islands in Indonesia. You can get onto a small little island, or you can go to Bali, and it's just every single island you go to is a little bit different. It's the most beautiful place I've ever been to.
And it's one of the cheapest places out there.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I'm it's pricey to get there because it's a little speck of an island in the middle of the ocean. But once you get there, you can stay in these beautiful villas for under $50 a night, and
It's like, why am I in Miami?
Yeah. And the water is bright blue, and it's like super warm. Like I fell in love with that place. I've been back once since then too, and I'm actually going again later this year. Yeah, I'm in. Like I've been taken back by the whole place. Obviously in Indonesia the most popular place is Bali, but I think the cool part about Indonesia is there's so much there to offer. Like in my series that I did, I talked about how, you know, Bali is really cool, and I didn't even showcase it that much, but it's really a really cool place obviously, but there's so many other places in Bali that people don't go, or in Indonesia that people don't go to, that are like just incredible. Like Borneo, where all the orangutans are, they're like on the verge of being endangered, and there's like all this deforestation with the palm trees and stuff. There's like some really interesting things going on there. So
yeah, you know, I didn't know, but like Papua New Guinea.
Yeah.
So the other half of the island is Indonesia.
Yeah.
It's like
that area is really cool too. I don't have a diving license, but I've heard that area, if you have your diving license, I think it's called Raja Ampat or something like that. Anyways, yeah, that area is insane.
So tell me a little bit about your background. Where are you from?
I grew up in Northern California. I didn't do any international travel of any kind until I was probably about 19 on my own. So growing up, my family was super into camping and the outdoors. Both my parents are super into that still. And so we did trips like to Mexico when I was younger and things, but I never really had the opportunity to go on like any big international trips. I was actually a super picky eater when I was young. I hated anything but like, I wouldn't even touch Mexican food, which in California is basically like our main food here. It was probably around 18 or so, my older brother, as a high school graduation present, was like, I'll buy you a flight to Europe for your graduation present or whatever. So he took me there and I did a backpacking trip throughout Europe, and I was like, after that trip I was like, I'm in, this is awesome, like I love this. And so that kind of like ignited the bug in me, and so while I was in college, I just saved up every penny I had to be able to go on a trip somewhere. And
I'm the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very common story. But the thing for me was, and that I also try to show a lot in some of my videos, is that travel doesn't always have to be expensive. Like, I didn't grow up with a lot of money to be able to go on these exotic trips, and even in college, I was in college, so I had a part-time job making $9 or $10 an hour or whatever. So, but if you can like play around with the airlines and stuff, I'm sure you know, you can play around with the flight stuff and you can find like really cheap flights. My first trip to Europe was $500 round trip. I went to school in Oklahoma, so I actually drove to Dallas because I found a cheap flight. I was like, I'm gonna drive to Dallas. I found a $500 round trip flight to London, and I was like, I'm gonna do a backpacking trip with my buddy. So that was the second trip, international trip I'd gone on, aside from my brother's trip. And so yeah, it's just, it kind of like was around the age of 20 that it like really kick-started in me, and that's when I was like, I need to start trying all the weird food that I was like so against. And so now I'm like, now I feel like my friends know me for eating like weird shit because I'm like, whatever the locals are doing, let's do it.
Let's do it, yeah.
So
I feel the same. I mean, I haven't been picky, but now I'm like super more adventurous. So anything. I mean, unless it's a dog or cat, I won't do that. Anything else, I can try it. So what was a trip or specific moment that like changed your life and you knew that you wanted to travel?
About 4 years ago, I had been doing graphic design in Los Angeles for, at that point, I think probably 3 or 4 years. Had a super awesome job, great coworkers and everything. I took a trip to Spain. It was a 2-week trip to Spain, and during that trip, I was with a couple friends, and I took a ferry across like the water or whatever, the Gibraltar Strait, I guess it's called, down into Morocco. So to Tangier. I saw you recently went there. As you know, that place is can be pretty intense. Like when you get off the boat, it is pretty overwhelming.
Pretty crazy.
That was the first time I've ever gone anywhere outside of like Europe, internationally. Like I've never been anywhere where I've had like a culture shock or anything like that until that moment.
Sorry, that was first time somewhere like that. For me, it was Morocco too.
Yeah.
So like complete culture shock.
Yeah. So I was like terrified. I think I was like 25 or something like that at the time, and I was just like, holy shit. I had never had to speak another language or anything, and like some people there spoke English, but then a lot of other people were like, it was like French and Arabic, and I just remember being like super overwhelmed. And so I made the terrible decision with my friends of leaving Tangier after one night and going back to Spain. And so that moment after I got back has sat with me for the last 5 years. Later this year, I'm going back, either by myself or with another person, to do a documentary on like culture shock and like where I've come in the last 5 years and why people are scared about traveling and what makes people scared, because Morocco's not a dangerous place, it's just a different place. It's just an intense place, different culture. But I feel like I left prematurely without giving it a chance, and I think I was just nervous and scared, and so I really want to go back. Now, years later, I mean, I think that influenced a lot of me, you know, trying to encourage people to get out of their comfort zones and go to places that they're like, they think might be scary. India or something like that, or Cuba, or wherever it is. So that's my trip. That was my moment, and that's my plan for later this year, to go back and make that experience in Morocco a reality and tell that story. Because I think everyone has those moments where something switches or whatever.
For sure. I mean, like Morocco for me, when I landed, I was like, I mean, most of my life it was like some South America, Europe, and I hadn't been to Asia, and I went to Morocco. And it was like, it's just the dirtiness, like, you never seen dirty.
Have you been to India?
I haven't. Dude, that's like, yeah, I know.
India, put the dirtiness, like a...
I know, like you see all the brown on the side of the walls. I've heard stories.
It's an experience, man.
Now I'm gonna do some rapid fire questions, okay?
Alright, let's do it.
Favorite food?
Curry.
Favorite drink?
If it's alcoholic, old fashioned.
And if it's not?
Iced tea, maybe?
Oh, okay.
Or root
I'm
beer?
a water guy, so.
Water, there you go. Yeah.
Favorite camera to film with?
Probably GoPro.
Awesome.
Yeah.
City with the friendliest people?
City's tough. If I had to say country, I'd say India.
Okay.
Really, really nice people. Everyone I met there was like, went out of their way to like make me happy and like please me and stuff. It's super, super cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Favorite airport?
Tokyo.
Favorite airline?
Maybe Norwegian. Not because it's an amazing experience, but because it's affordable and I want more people to travel.
So what's a location that you can go back to over and over again without being bored?
I guess since I've been there a few times already, Indonesia.
Okay.
I love it there.
I'm sure you still have like 16,500 islands to choose from.
Yeah. For sure.
Where are you off to next?
San Francisco tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what about international destinations?
International destinations, probably Canada later this month. I've never been to Alberta, and I've just seen all those cool pictures of like Lake Louise and Jasper and Banff for so long that I feel like I've been talking about it, and I just want to like make it happen. So
Awesome.
That's the plan.
So now you know about Mike Dewey. Please follow him on Instagram, subscribe to his YouTube channel.
Like this video, leave a comment below, and make sure to subscribe to David's channel as well. Thanks, man.
Okay. Do this and let's do a cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, man.
No problem.